We begin with breaking news out of Gaza this morning, where dozens of people have reportedly been killed after a blast at a refugee camp in northern Gaza. Gaza's Interior Ministry says 6 Israeli missiles hit apartment blocks in the Jabaliya refugee camp. The director of Gaza's Indonesian hospital says hundreds of people have been injured and many are still trapped underneath the rubble. The Israeli Defence Force says a Hamas commander was the target of the attack. Sky's Deborah Haynes has the latest.
There have been reports that dozens of people have been killed at this Jabaliya refugee camp in northern Gaza. The director of the Indonesian hospital has said that hundreds of people were injured and also killed. And then the Hamas-controlled Interior Ministry has said that this was because of Israeli airstrikes. Now, the Israeli military has released a statement talking about how they launched a strike, or they launched an attack that killed the commander of Hamas's central Jabaliya Battalion, who they say is one of the leaders of the terrorist attack on the 7th of October in Israel that triggered this war. So clearly, for the military operation, this person was clearly targeted. And I've just been told by a spokesperson that it's thought that that strike is in the same area as clearly this other this incident that's happened. So it would perhaps indicate that we're talking about the same incident here, but I imagine we'll hear more when the spokesperson, the official spokesperson, gives his briefing later. This is day 5 now of Israel's expanded ground operation into Gaza. There have been a lot of airstrikes, multiple airstrikes in the northern area, which you can't see, of course, now because it's the night, and troops on the ground. You can maybe hear the boom of an explosion there. There have been airstrikes this evening still, and also artillery rounds. We've also heard gunfire, the Israeli military saying that they are going after Hamas targets, including in buildings, but also in this network of tunnels that Hamas operate in underground. Their 2 missions are, first, according to their Prime Minister, the goal is to destroy Hamas. And then secondly, they want to try to rescue the more than 230 hostages that are being held captive by Hamas inside Gaza. And actually, a statement has been released from Hamas that saying that they are going to be, sorry, I'm just getting it, that Hamas has told mediators that they will be releasing a number of foreign captives in the coming days, according to a spokesperson for the group. But clearly they've made comments like that before. It will remain to be seen if that actually happens.
OK, that's the latest from Sky's Deborah Haynes in southern Israel. To other key developments now, and Israel says it's hit 300 targets in Gaza. That includes military compounds, as its airstrikes and ground offensives continue. The World Health Organization has warned a public health catastrophe is imminent in Gaza, and the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza says more than 8,500 have been killed now, and that includes about 3,500 children. The death toll in Israel, meanwhile, still stands at about 1,400. And Egypt's Prime Minister says it's ready to sacrifice millions of lives to defend its territory amid increasing pressure for Egypt to take in Palestinian refugees. Now, a short time ago, actually, as we speak, we're hearing from the Israeli Defence Force spokesperson, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, and this is what he said in relation to that blast at the refugee camp.
We managed to eliminate the terrorist, the murderer Ibrahim Biari. Biari is the individual who was the main leader of combat since the entrance of the forces into North Gaza. He was also involved in the October 7th massacre. During his elimination, many terrorists were killed. Terrorists who were with him in that building as well as underground. Beneath this building, the targeting of Biari's building led to the collapse of other buildings because because there was a very extensive infrastructure there, and the purpose of that infrastructure was to carry out terrorist activities against our forces. The entire infrastructure collapsed and many terrorists were killed. The Hamas terrorists continue to use civilian population.
Well, FBI Director Christopher Wray has warned US Congress that the ongoing conflict in the Middle East will likely motivate terrorism in the West. Mr. Wray claims Hamas's attacks on Israel could fuel homegrown terrorism, similar to threats posed by ISIS several years ago. The FBI chief said since the beginning of the Hamas-Israel conflict, multiple terrorist organisations have called for attacks against Americans as well as the West.
What has now increased is the greater possibility of one of these foreign terrorist organizations directing an attack in the United States. We haven't seen evidence that it's actually happening yet, but what we have seen is, and I listed them off in my opening remarks, one terrorist organization after another calling for attacks.